All right, we're good. Welcome, everybody, back to another episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Previews. I'm your host, as always, David Miller, and we're joined today by three Jets fans going from top left to bottom left. We've got Zach and Hector above me from Breaking Down the Tape, and then we've got our guy Matt O'Leary NY from TikTok, all big Jets fans. So, guys, how are we doing today?
Good. The season hasn't started yet.
Love it.
Fantastic. I mean, I got a sunburn from being down in Florida this last couple days.
Valid.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm excited to talk some football with you guys.
Yeah, I am too. And Zach, you said the season hasn't started yet, so you're good. The Jets are going to be good this year. We've talked about it before on your podcast. I've got big expectations for them.
Well, if you ask me anytime this year, the Jets are going 17-0. Previous year 16-0. But the problem is I fall into that cyclical, issue that all Jets fans do, where we're like, oh, we had a good draft, we had a good free agency, and then 3 weeks in, and I'm on my 12th bottle of Jameson, just crying my life away. So.
I mean, that's fair. I get that, and I think a lot of people, I've noticed, especially this offseason, really overvalue how good a team is going to be after a good draft, forgetting that, these are college prospects and they're still going to be raw going into it. But a lot of the guys the Jets drafted, you've got Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, obviously. Those are guys that I think will be impact starters day one. I don't think it's going to take very long for them to really get acquainted within the NFL, get situated, because they're just phenomenal football players.
Well, I'm thinking over here, and I've been getting a lot of shit about it, talking to a few guys here and there. I keep reiterating that Breece Hall is going to be one of the best backs in the league. I just ran across like 2 articles that backed up my statement. He is now ranked fantasy-wise the 15th best player to draft.
Damn. Yeah, I think. When it comes to running backs coming out of the draft, especially nowadays, that's a position where I don't really think it takes a whole lot for them to get situated, kind of like I was saying, because running backs are running backs. They're going to be as good as they're going to be pretty much right away, with obviously some exceptions, guys moving and whatnot. But the Jets, the way their team is set up, they definitely are a running back friendly offense, I would say. And if Breece Hall is that guy like I expect him to be, and I'm sure you guys do as well, I think he's like probably my favorite right now, at the very least, to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to be incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you also because he seems like a perfect fit in this wide zone system that they're going to LaFleur coming from that Shanahan tree. They love running that. And I think his skill set is going to be perfect for that system. So I agree. I'm excited to see what he does in his rookie year.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got...
I'm going to get a lot of shit because I'm definitely drafting him in fantasy. I'm sorry, Zach. You're not getting him.
Well, we all know, first of all, I'm going 0 RB in fantasy. That's just the way it's going to be, number one. Number two, I mean, Breece of his own accord, of his own, physical talents, is going to be an amazing running back. And I mean, like you said, running backs don't require a whole lot to be good in this offense, and especially rookie running backs. But you still have Michael Carter back there. Let's not sleep on that. You still have, I believe, Tevin Coleman back there as your third guy. So although he doesn't pack the kind of punch that Michael Carter and Breece Hall are going to, that's not a soft jab there. That's a pretty swift, a nice straight jab there with him. And not to mention, we saw Zack Wilson at the end of the season really start to hit his stride. So I think this is going to be, like I said before, I'm on that 17-0 train because it's the preseason, not even. I really think this is going to be a friendly offense for everybody, with Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, who was an absolute stud last year, Davis, who's going to take a lot of pressure off. Obviously, he had a good year. And then that backfield, and they upgraded the offensive line. So I expect Breece Hall to do well.
Yeah.
As much as I like the 17-0, and me and Zach do run with that a lot, I'll be realistic, and I'll say I am going to agree with Mosley, though. It's playoff or bust.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least that. Get into the playoffs and give us a chance.
That'd be a lot of fun, man. After 10, 11 years since the last playoff appearance, I think it's time, guys. It's time.
It's time, and it's nice to see. Obviously Mosley has been one of the best captains around the NFL, not talent wise, but like leadership in your locker room wise. That's one of the guys that I want. The dog in the fight. But it's nice that to see that kind of mentality, not the well, we're in a rebuilding year, so if we do well, we'll be happy with it. For him to say no, that's screw all of that. Like it's playoffs or bust. We are competing. We're out here to compete. We're out here to play football, and we're not gonna be one of those, poverty teams who, if we get a couple of wins above our over under, then, we'll consider it a win. Nah, the fact that they're coming out here looking for blood is nice to see.
Yeah, New York, like I said, we talked about it when we kind of went through all of the teams on your podcast. I said New York is a playoff team. I really do think they are. Now, a lot of things have to go their way, and there's a lot of stiff competition in the AFC or the AFC as a whole, obviously. But if I were to pick a team other than I don't want to say the guarantees, but like everyone is kind of leaning towards being a playoff contender in the AFC, the Jets are pretty much right in that conversation. If Zack Wilson can take a big step year two, which he is in a prime position to do with the offensive line they've built, the weapons they've put around him, the run game he's going to have to rely on, the Jets can be a scary football team.
I'm even more excited to see the defensive side of it. Like I'll say what I say, like I usually do. Sauce Gardner, if he doesn't win it, he'll probably become second in Rookie of the Year defensively.
Yeah, I got to back Hector up on this one. He stole the words right out of my mouth. The offense, like I said before, is definitely primed for a big year two push for Zach, but the defense is also going to take a huge pressure off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. He's never played a snap in the NFL, but Sauce has not let up a touchdown in his entire career. I mean, that's not a joke. You know what I mean? And they upgraded the defense with Whitehead back there. They've got DJ Reed. Obviously Mosley. They're getting both Williams brothers back, healthy. And I like Hall, by the way. I like Bryce Hall. A lot of people aren't a huge fan of his, but I do like Bryce Hall. So I mean, their defense is going to, I think, not necessarily get the ball back. Like I'm not seeing like a Trayvon Diggs kind of situation for Sauce or the cornerbacks there. I'm not seeing like a whole hell of a lot of turnovers, but I am seeing a lot of defensive stops. I do think that defense is going to be better than most people think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the edge presence is going to be such a big difference too. Like last year, obviously what they lost in Carl Lawson before the year made a huge impact on the defense struggling. And then you add Jermaine Johnson to that. I think that's going to be a huge plus for this defense too.
You know what's crazy? I saw this now that you mentioned even the edge rushers. I saw this crazy stat about Carl Lawson. Even missing pretty much all of last season with his injury, he still ranks behind. I think it's fifth in QB hits at 83 since his career started, and he's only behind the likes of obviously Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, and I forgot the other name. But he's tied with Myles Garrett at 83 QB hits, and that's missing an entire season.
Yeah.
And one guy that I want to bring up is I know we've talked about Jermaine Johnson, but the Jets' last pick in 117, Michael Clemons, I think he's going to be a little, not like, I'm not talking defensive rookie of the year or anything, but I do think he's going to be a little bit more of an impact player than I think people make him out to be. Watching some of his college film, he plays like he wears black Air Forces. Like he has a problem with people on the football field. And as a defensive end, I love to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Speaking of Michael Clemons and obviously Jermaine Johnson as well, going into the draft, I was not the biggest Jermaine Johnson fan. I want to put that out there. But him falling the way he did to the Jets was fantastic for them. Like, even as someone who wasn't a big fan of his, great value. But Michael Clemons, like Zach mentioned, is someone I'm actually more excited to see play. And you put it perfectly that he's like wearing black Air Forces out there. He is an absolute menace to society, and him kind of going to New York and fitting in that, like the big apple is what I was trying to say there. I really like his fit with the Jets, and I'm definitely excited to see what he can do more so than Jermaine Johnson.
Plus, I mean, they're going to rotate the defensive line a lot, too. So he's going to get his reps. And like Robert Saleh, we saw it in San Francisco, how much he likes to rotate the defensive line. But I think they're going to even put, more of an emphasis on it because of the depth that they have at the position, too.
It's kind of crazy how the Jets defense was like a real big reason of them being so bad, like especially in the corner situation. And then they go into this draft and they completely like double and triple down on every position in the defensive side of the ball. You got, I mean, Salah, like you're saying, Salah already came out and said he's trying to minimize, the snaps for all his, linemen. He's going to give them a good amount of time, but a lot of rest at the same time, since he's going to be flopping guys in and out. And again, even at the corner position where we were extremely fucking garbage at, if you look deeper into the corners we did have last year, they actually weren't as bad as people are saying it. It's just because they were wearing a Jets uniform. Because Brandon Eccles was no joke last year. And like Zach was saying before, so was Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they're easy blue chip guys for sure. Eccles is a guy that I did like coming out of the draft previously. But yeah, I mean Salah definitely has placed a lot of emphasis on that edge rushing, which is something that Hector and I have screamed about for years. I mean, Douglas put on a master class. I mean, I've been middle of the road, back and forth on the fence about him over the last couple of years, but this is the year that we saw, like I now understand that it was puzzle pieces, and then finally we've seen the picture on the box. Finally, we got to put everything together this year, and Joe Douglas showed out in this draft. And just he got. I mean, I'm looking at their draft picks right in front of me. And, I mean, I don't think there's a single miss here, from Sauce to Wilson, Johnson, Brees Hall, even Jeremy Ruckert, Max Mitchell, and Michael Clemons, all in the spots that he got them and how he went about getting them. It was a master class. Now we've got talent and depth talent, not just, we've got guys to fill in this roster spot. We've got talented guys at depth. Man, it's real hard for me to not love the Jets right now.
I like the fact that you mentioned that Rucker. I think that Rucker cat at tight end is probably going to be one of the better tight ends in the NFL. First of all, we all can agree that there's not many. There's 5 tight ends we can say are great, and then everybody else is fighting for last place. I think this Rucker kid's going to make a fucking statement.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to this year with the likes of Conklin and Uzama ahead of him, but I definitely think this is a long game pick by Douglas, and I think this is a great, we've got Conklin and Uzama on kind of like 1-year deal situations. Let's see how they play. If we extend, awesome. If we don't, we still got a good guy in the backup.
Yeah, I was going to say that I feel like this is a developmental guy where he sits a little bit in the first year because of the guys in front of him, but then by year 2 or 3, he's starting to become a starter and taking that next step. But I like him a lot, especially what he did at Ohio State. I think he's was a little underutilized there in the receiving game. He's a really good blocker, but I think he's going to be a threat as a pass catcher too.
That's where I think it's going to fit in, because obviously we already seen a little bit in the in the OTAs and in the workouts and stuff where Uzama caught a little injury, and they're fixing him up. Conklin's getting slightly on the older side, but they are going to run that 2 tight end personnel a lot because they're going to be running the ball with their 2 backs. And like you just mentioned, Rucker is probably going to be the best blocker out of all 3, so he'll definitely get his snaps in, and he obviously, with that, minimal playing time he's going to get, he's going to have some breakout plays. People are just going to forget that he's on the field.
And kind of building up on that, that's the nice part is, yeah, you can run double tights, but especially with him back there as your 3rd tight end, you can even run triple. You can run 3 tight ends, and I'd still be comfortable with that. Whether you're running a run-heavy formation or you're sending some sort of tight end, passing scheme, I'm comfortable with all of that.
Fullback. I'll run plays with that motherfucker as a fullback.
Man, you just got David's heart.
But you got Nick Bodden. You don't need a tight end at fullback. You've got a legitimate fullback in New York. Like, Nick Bodden is, I don't know how to put it. He's got that dog in him. I guess that's how we'll put it. He's really got that dog in him. And he's somebody, we've talked about the run game a lot already. We're not even that far into this, and that's kind of been one of the focal points. He's going to play a massive role for this offense. And I think a lot of NFL teams, and I'll probably say this in every podcast with a team that has a fullback on it, but a lot of NFL teams I think are going to start to realize the importance of having a fullback nowadays. And maybe that's a little bit of optimism, but I think the Jets are kind of going to be ahead of the curve with that, with having Bodden and him being able to come in and play a big role for their offense, be that lead blocker for guys like Hall and, looking at Carter, Coleman, everyone we've already named. I think he's going to be a big part of the offense. So don't disrespect him. Don't say you're going to put Jeremy Ruckert at fullback. Let that boy play tight end.
I'm just saying you can throw, because he's such a blocking tight end, and obviously you're going to try to find some time to give him playing time. And Salah's going to scheme up, and LaFleur's going to scheme up some crazy offensive plays. Why not throw 3 tight ends in a play and use one of them as blocking one as a fucking fullback?
Run 2 fullbacks. Fuck it.
You know what I mean? Like what linebacker's going to stop that?
Yeah. That would destroy the league. That would destroy the league. With how undersized linebackers are starting to get, putting 2 fullbacks in the backfield on a run play would destroy like half of the NFL.
Well, that's what I was going to say before, is that the NFL, when you were talking about fullbacks, is the NFL is cyclical. I mean, right now we're in this air raid, pass-heavy offense. Eventually, linebackers are going to start getting too small and too fast, and cornerbacks and safeties aren't going to hit as hard because we're playing the pass. Then whoever leads the way with the run-heavy, power, lead offense is going to start running for 200, 300, 400 yards a game, ridiculously, and then we're going to cycle back to bigger, heavier corners and safeties and linebackers. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's all about finding, the next biggest trend. But, under Shanahan, LaFleur has learned how to set the next biggest trend.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got faith.
Mm-hmm.
I did see, and I don't know if anyone else has caught it, just rumors out there since San Fran has early on a while ago released, I think his name is Quan Alexander. There's talks that Salah might go out and pick him up as an extra linebacker piece, which I think would be amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if there's one position I'm a little bit worried about on this team, it's linebacker. So if they could just add any type of depth at this point, I think that'd be steady. And like Quan's someone who knows the system really well and has played under Salah, so I feel like that's a perfect fit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be disappointed in that.
And I 100% agree. I feel like at this point the linebacker position is weakest in our defense, especially since we've seen that over the last few years. We lost C.J. Mosley after 2 games one season. We our linebackers have been injury prone the last maybe 3 or 4 seasons.
And there has not been much depth to it. I mean, because after Mosley went down, that was week 1. The Jets were up on the Bills, I want to say by like 14 points or something. And then Mosley went down. You saw the entire game shift instantaneously.
Yeah, that's, we were talking, or not we, you were talking about very early on about the importance of CJ Mosley as like a leader for that Jets team. And that's the only downside kind of to his existence with the Jets, because I think he's an underrated linebacker. I don't think he necessarily gets the credit he deserves from non-Jets fans in the national media and whatnot. But him not being able to stay on the field recently, and that's been a big issue for him. I'm kind of just stating the obvious at this point. I just wanted to call CJ Mosley overrated. Now I'm rambling, but yeah, the Jets linebackers are definitely a concern of mine with this team.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be like an issue that's so glaring. Like, I definitely think it's a hole, but I don't think it's going to be a huge glaring issue.
Yeah, I agree.
You've got the Dolphins who want to try and spread the field outside, even though Tua's not going to hit any of it. You've got the Patriots, who is probably going to be the ones that are going to cause pain at that, right? Because lobster mac and cheese up there is going to be hitting smart slant routes over the middle. You know what I mean? They're going to design smart schemed plays for him that is definitely going to expose that. But then you've got the Bills. Outside of Josh Allen running, if he makes it to the second level, then that's an issue. But other than that, I'm not overtly concerned about them really exposing the linebacker core. I know they just drafted a running back, but I'm still not sold on the Bills running the ball.
No, you better stop that blasphemy right there, Zach. Because, like I've said before, little brother's always better than big brother. And Cook is definitely going to be better than Dalvin Cook. I'm telling you that right now. That's what the Bills needed. But enough Bills talk because they're not real New York.
The Canadian football team.
The one good thing we can say about the Jets is that they can kind of mask the linebacker position being kind of the weaker side for the fact that they got so many edge rushers that can also play that linebacker role. Jermaine, like you said, Jermaine Johnson can come down or play the outside linebacker. John Franklin Myers, we've seen him last year pretty much play everything but the DB position.
Is John Franklin Myers, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he go to Tampa? Didn't he get released and go to Tampa? Or
No.
am I wrong? Is he still
I'm looking at the depth chart right now. He's still there listed as a starter.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's ready to roll.
For some reason, I thought he went to Tampa for whatever. It just popped in my head. I guess I'm not as good as a Jets fan as I'd like to believe.
I mean, just like we got Jermaine Johnson who can play both. We got Carl Lawson that can play both. We got Franklin Myers that could play both. We got Williams that can play not Quinnen because we obviously his interior defensive line, but his brother.
Quincy's a stud, man. That was a hell of a pickup.
Play both.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the when you guys pointed out the teams in the division, I think what really stands out there is how they're going to want to play their offenses. You pointed out with Buffalo being an air raid, obviously Miami with their speed, like the linebackers aren't going to match up well against them anyway, so it's not going to really matter. The only team where you're really concerned with that is New England. But I think what could help mitigate that is like the addition of Jordan Whitehead. And honestly, DJ Reed at corner too, because both of those guys are really good in the run game and coming down and making plays towards the line of scrimmage. So I think they should help mitigate maybe some of those issues that you might see at linebacker outside of Mosley.
Yeah, in the Jets.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think it's going to. Like I said, I think outside of divisional play divisional play, it's going to be a little bit of a pain, but within those three other teams, I don't think it's going to be super hard to mask.
Yeah, to go off of what Matt was saying, the Jets, I think it was Hector earlier brought up the depth with this team, or maybe it was Zach. I don't know. I'm already losing track. Somebody brought up the depth with this team, and it's definitely there at safety. You have Ashton Davis, who I'm a big fan of. Will Parks isn't the worst football player in the world. So if a guy like Whitehead, like Joyner, has to step up and kind of play inside the box, if one of your linebackers is to go down, or if you're just not too confident in what's going on at linebacker, the Jets can absolutely get away with that. So maybe linebacker isn't necessarily as big of a concern as I thought it was, but it's still probably the weakest position group on this roster, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, and I don't think any of us would disagree with that in the slightest. It definitely is the whole. It's just not, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think, like, man, we lost this game because the linebackers. Like, I don't think that's ever going to be something that I'm shaking my fist at. I might shake my fist at cover zero again. That might be a thing that happens, but I don't think it's going to be the linebackers that make me drink.
Oh, God.
I mean, and granted, we know what the Jets do. They are a run stop first. Their linebackers are not the linebackers that are playing coverage most of the time. They're in the box, and they're making plays at the line of scrimmage. They're pretty I think this is I'm not going to speak for Salah, but the way Salah runs defenses, he uses his linebackers as like an extra defensive line. Like everyone, he stacks the box and tries to let the corners just be shut down corners.
Yeah, he definitely rushes the quarterback, and that's something that I think will do well in our division easily. I mean, you saw last year the Jets, even with the injuries on defense, even with the offense having its sputtering moments, I mean, the defense held its own in a lot of games. So I don't know. I'm excited, not cautiously.
That is true. The weakest part of the Jets last year was the offense not being able to put up points. The defense did try to keep us in games, but if you're not putting up points, or you're turning the ball over and you're barely getting into the other side of the fucking 50-yard line, I mean, there's only so much your defense can do.
Yeah, that's true. And I think a big part of what's going to help the defense this year is the sustained drives on offense, because too many times last year, especially before the injury, when Zack Wilson came back from injury, they were a little bit better offensively. But early on, there were so many 3-and-outs, and then the defense was going right back on the field. And that's a recipe for disaster, especially with the young guys they had on the roster last year. So I think the ability to sustain drives is going to really help keep those guys fresh.
I think it starts at the offensive line.
Oh, 100.
The craziest improvement at the offensive line, especially taking Vera Tucker, shifting him over to the right side. So now you got Laken Tomlinson.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line has the craziest. The only thing that scares me is Mekhi Becton.
All right, Rich Cimini.
We even still have a contingency plan for Mekhi Becton, most likely going to be overweight again.
All right, Rich Cimini, calm down there. It's Mekhi Becton season. You heard it here first, and we're riding that train to the grave, baby.
Yeah, I'm still on Mekhi Becton. I think him moving to right tackle, because I'm assuming George Fant's going to win the left tackle job. He was too good last year not to. But I think the work he's put in with Duke Mayweather in the offseason, I think is going to really help out Mekhi. And, if he's back and healthy, it's a question mark, but I think he could be really dominant as a run blocker on the right side with Elijah Vera Tucker, and just have, Breece Hall and Michael Carter running to that right side.
That's a lot less pressure on him too. He don't have to worry about being the blind side protector, taking on those guys that probably will dominate him if he's not in tip-top shape.
Yeah, it's definitely easy to hide a slower, badder right tackle than it is a left tackle. A left tackle is going to be glaring and very apparent from snap number one. Whereas a right tackle, like you said, God forbid he isn't tip-top, there is a little bit more to hide behind there. But I don't know, man. I cannot wait for the undercover Patriots fan that Rich Cimini is to eat his words, and Mekhi Becton to go out there and throw 10 pancakes a game, because I'm just fed up with Rich, and I'm fed up with his Becton hate.
We've seen, as great as Becton can be, we've seen some great plays from Becton, but you can also see where he's weak at. Run blocking, ain't nobody in the game that's going to stop him.
Yeah,
but you do see once they drop back to pass, he is just too slow for those quicker edge rushers.
I mean, I don't disagree there. He does need to work on his footwork, but like we've talked about, I think that's why the move to right tackle is good, because it's not as pressure worthy.
Yeah, I agree with that point too. It's so important, especially on the blind side, to have your best pass protector. And I think Fant is, out of everyone on the line, not just the tackles, I think he's the best in pass pro. So I think that makes the most sense to have him over there. And I don't know, I feel like obviously the edge rushers can rotate a little bit, but more often than not, you see the dominant edge rushing against the left tackle more so than the right tackle. So I think it's honestly just better for both of them to have that switch of the sides be more consistent this year of Becton on the right and Fant starting out at left tackle.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see good things come from the line here. I mean, we've talked about the weapons that the Jets have, and I can continue ad nauseum, but I think, like Hector had said, it's going to start on the line, and I think it's a good start. It's going to be a good start for them there.
I think one of the better things as well, now that the line kind of got an identity, they kind of know what's going to go down with the line. You got two running backs that pretty much can do it all. You don't know if they're gonna run the ball. They got great hands. We got a lot of speed on the offensive side between the running backs and the receivers. So Zack Wilson really only needs 2.5 seconds of good pass blocking. So all you need to do is hit a hitch or slant or a bubble route to any one of those weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Just let him go.
Yeah, I think Yak's going to be big, and I don't think it's going to be a problem for the Jets.
Yeah, that's such a big part of this offense, I think, is going to be getting the ball in these guys' hands quickly and getting it out of Zack Wilson's hands quickly into the playmakers' hands and watching them go. Like when Elijah Moore was at his best last year, it was with the ball in his hands making plays. Garrett Wilson's kind of the same deal. He has the speed. Braxton Barrios is another guy who has speed and can play in the slot. And they're both running backs, can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think there's going to be a lot of things like underneath getting the ball out of your young quarterback's hands and into his playmakers and just, trying to make plays.
Yeah, Zack Wilson a little bit last year held on to the ball. I mean, it's rookie season. You know what I mean? He held on to the ball a lot. He was trying to make the big play. And they always try to teach the quarterbacks to just get rid of the ball. Let the other guys make the plays for you. And then when they start creeping up to stop that, then it opens up that deep pass. We all know Zack Wilson. Yeah, we all know Zack Wilson got the arm to throw a 60, 70-yard bomb. But last year, you saw him trying to reach for that too much.
That's where J.C. Jackson had his number in that 4 interception game because he kept trying to force it too much. Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be a key for them is safe, smart, make a good read, make a good pass, and then when it provides itself and you see Garrett Wilson screaming down the field one-on-one with a guy 10 feet behind him, then uncork that bitch and let it go.
I think another great part of it, too, is the fact that outside of Braxton Barrios, who's obviously just a slot receiver, all the other receivers can play inside or outside the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, and let's not hate on slot receivers here. Let's not do this. He is, and I mean this as a complete compliment. He is your Walmart brand Cooper Kupp. And that is a complete compliment because don't be sleeping on Walmart.
I'm not hating on the slot receiver. I'm just saying Braxton Barrios is not playing outside. You'll never see Braxton Barrios play outside the numbers.
Absolutely.
Got Corey Davis and Wilson who are going to primarily play outside the numbers. They're bigger, they're faster. Sure. But outside of him, everyone else can either play inside or outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into the versatility that we've been talking about and how many ways that the Jets could line up their offense and why I think it has the potential to be a really fun offense because of how many different things they can do and how Mike LaFleur can get extremely creative with designing these plays. We saw him do it a little bit last year on some of those trick plays, but I think he can go off a little bit more with the influx of talent that they have now.
I'm with it.
Yeah. Not only that. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Our special teams are actually, I would consider our special teams one of the better special teams in the NFL.
Braden Mann for MVP.
Braden Mann's a ridiculous punter. Our field goal kicker needs, I guess iffy at that part. But when it comes to, getting quality field, what I'm trying to say.
Field position.
Our special teams does a pretty fucking good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Brant Boyer has the special teams coach has kind of lasted through a bunch of different regimes here, and I think that kind of shows you his value and how much they respect him as a coach. He was here with Bowles, he was here with Gase, and now he's here with Salas. So that's 3 different regimes that he's stuck around with, and he's had success with different returners and kickers and punters throughout that time. So I think you have to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, and we saw last year, in the NFC Championship game, just how important it is to have a good special teams unit. And the Jets, on top of everything else, having a fantastic special teams unit is really going to be a difference maker for them. And I was going to bring up as well with Braxton Barrios, just as kind of a side note, I'm absolutely enamored by him. I love him. I love watching Braxton Barrios play football because he is the definition, kind of like Zach said, the Walmart brand Cooper Kupp, the high grit, high motor, just absolutely a football guy. A football guy is the best way to put it. You can just tell he wants to be out there every single snap, wants to do every single little dirty thing he can, and that's a great type of player to have on your team.
He's a better Wes Welker.
I can kind of rock with that. I mean, I feel like he's more athletic than Wes. I don't know if he'll have the legacy that Welker has, obviously. Okay. But I think he's more athletic.
Yeah, if you want to look at it athletically, he's better than Wes Welker. But I was going to say, let's not get carried away.
Let's stop and don't play like Wes Welker was this big deal. We do know who was throwing that man the ball.
I mean, he was still listen. I know he was Patriots. I can't praise him too much on here, but he's still a good damn receiver. He made plays.
You take Wes Welker or Edelman and throw them on any other team in the NFL. They are not putting up those numbers, and they are nobody names in the NFL.
I mean, Welker was all right once he left New England. We're not going to
But isn't
talk
that
about
the,
we're
like,
not going to talk about who his quarterback was when he left, but he was still solid.
isn't that like the penultimate question though? If you take any great player and put them on any other team, are they
Yeah.
still that good?
Right.
You know,
There's a difference when you have the GOAT throwing you the ball. Then you can put up that argument.
Fair enough, I suppose. One player
Yeah.
we haven't mentioned talking about the offense yet that I'm a little bit partial to because he's from my hometown is Ty Johnson, who obviously isn't going to be like a top 2 runner on this team or anything like that, but he has the ability to come in and make some splash plays, come in and really be a spark plug, so to speak, off the bench, kind of like the sixth man of your running back room. He's got the speed, he's got the quickness, the vision. He can make big plays for him, and he's another guy that just kind of goes to show just how deep and versatile this offense is.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wasn't upset when I saw Johnson come in on any play, whether it be due to injury or just rotation. It's not like I was like, shit, well, there goes this play. It was okay. You know what I mean? I was never upset to see him on the field. He definitely is not gonna be your full-time starter, like you said. He's definitely not even gonna be your second string guy. But I mean, he's definitely gonna get some work in there, and it's not gonna be unproductive work.
I mean, just realize, look at where he was. A lot of the times when he got his playing time, look at when they put him in. He did a lot of time inside the 20-yard line. He's a bigger back compared to Breece Hall and Michael Carter. Still has the speed. I feel like he'll get that shine and that playing time and that recognition within that 20-yard gap, trying to punch it in and save up on the hits on Breece Hall and Michael Carter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought Ty Johnson in 2020 was a lot better than the version we saw of him last year. It felt like every time they threw him the ball, he dropped everything. So I think he's going to be pretty further down on the pecking order this year. But if he looks anything close to what he did 2 years ago, I think the Jets would be very happy. But I was a little disappointed with last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did have a little fumbling too. I think he had a couple bad games when it came to losing the ball.
Yeah, I mean,
I hear what you're saying from a pass perspective, but I don't hate him as a runner. I think he was fine as a runner, but I see what you're saying from a pass perspective.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make him out to be some great running back or anything, but I'm just saying, as like your fourth option, you could do a lot worse, and he's somebody that you can at least be all right with, kind of like Zach said when he comes on the field. You're not worried. It's not the end of the world if he's coming in, in the red zone, trying to kind of be a power back-esque type player. Not really, but like Hector said, he's bigger, he's bulkier, he can take hits better than guys like Breece Hall, so he serves his purpose.
They was saying Ty Johnson for comeback player of the year.
I mean, it's a little goofy, but I'll take it.
It's like my Red Wings prediction. I don't know if I'd put money there. You do what you want with that. I'm not real
that. Oh, Lord. I wonder how many other podcasts this week are talking about Ty Johnson.
I'm going to put it in the ballpark of 0.
Yeah.
Maybe if Ty Johnson had a podcast, they'd be talking about Ty Johnson. But other than that,
I got to get Ty Johnson on my podcast. I've got connections with him because my cousin sells him cars. So I got to get him on my podcast. Yeah. Yeah, look at me. I'm Hollywood now. I got one connection to a fourth string running back.
I think what makes this season exciting too is that we got player on both sides of the ball potentially could win rookie of blank.
Yeah. You
can fill it in. Wilson could go out win rookie of the year and then have Ahmad Sauce Gardner go out win rookie, of the year defensively. Like that would, we got two guys that are extremely good playmakers.
Yeah, I have to say at all levels, kind of building on Hector's point, I don't think we've seen this much talent on a Jets team since 2010, 2011, and then that was run by one of the worst head coaches in the league. That was an Eric Mangini built team run by Rex, who loves feet, Ryan. So at least we have a solid GM and a solid head coach at this point with a talented team. And to Hector's point, yeah, you can point at Sauce, you can point at Wilson and say either one of those could be offensive or defensive rookie of the year or overall rookie of the year, depending on how that goes. You want to throw Brees Hall into offensive rookie of the year conversation? That could even happen. You know what I mean? Depending on what the Jets do and the kind of, if we're talking about a Cincinnati Bengals style turnaround, Salah's in the running for coach of the year. You know what I mean? So do I think we'll have that extreme of a turnaround? My heart says yes. My brain says let's just get to the playoffs. But who knows? It's one of those seasons that I genuinely feel like, yes, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but not nearly as much as in the past.
It could go either way. We could go 0-17 or we can go 17-0.
That's the Jets for you.
I just want to make the playoffs.
Listen, I'm not even a Jets fan. I'm over here chugging the Kool-Aid. I think if any team is going to be the Bengals this year, it's absolutely going to be the Jets. And maybe that's just because I'm a massive Zack Wilson fan. Like, I think this kid is going to be a top 10 quarterback within the next 5 years. I'm a huge fan. But I definitely think the Jets have insane upside at the very least. If you want to just put it that way, kind of play it safe. This team has the most upside, I think, out of any team that didn't make the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to Zack Wilson, like you said. I think this team will go as far as Zack Wilson will take them, and it depends on how big of a step forward he takes this year. If it's that massive leap like we saw from Josh Allen that he made, then this team's a playoff team. If it's a marginal leap, then maybe they're somewhere around 500. If he stays around the same, well, then there's going to be some issues because that can't happen this year.
So me and Zach have this thing. We called it out for Zack Wilson. We believe Zack Wilson. And people give us shit for this because obviously we know what he did last year. Barely 2,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. We get it. It wasn't that great. It was kind of fucking horrible. You played really shitty. But me and Zach both believe with the weapons offensively and with the improvements on defense, he can go out and win. And who knows? But he can go out and win comeback player of the year. I think he's going to go out there and throw somewhere around 25 to 30 touchdowns. And if he hits double-digit interceptions, it's not going to be more than 12.
Yeah, I mean, you got to, first of all, let's look at a couple of things, right? Like, Hector's 100% right. If you look at the stat sheet, the Mormon Monster was terrible. But if you look at some of those games, and some of those interceptions, look, am I going to hate my rookie quarterback for being overconfident in his arm? Would I prefer you make better decisions? Of course. But, when the game's on the line and the ball is in your hand, yes, I want you to think you're the best person on planet Earth. So if you force the ball, like Brett Favre is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, but he has the highest interceptions of all time. I mean, I'd rather you go out there and be a gunslinger than be afraid to throw the ball. So is it great? No, but I'd rather that than nothing. And if you turn around and you see just the physical transformation between year 1 and year 2, I already feel like he's going to make a pretty big jump. I mean, Salah said it himself, and I'm going to back this statement up. That boy is thick with a couple of C's. I mean, Wilson's been in the gym, bro. I don't know if you've seen them pictures, but my dude took the Mormon Monster moniker seriously, whether he knows it or not.
Yeah,
and I think another point we should make here too is I don't think the stats from last year tell the entire story. Like, I think it's missing some context. Like, especially when he came back, he just looked a lot more comfortable in the pocket. And like, there was a very visible difference on tape from early on in the year when he looked like he had the happy feet. He was missing some easy check down throws, but that kind of went away, and the interceptions and the turnovers went way down. He had 1 interception after returning from injury. So I think if you look at that and want to spin that as the positive, I think that's what you do. And you just hope that, the yardage and the touchdown passes come this year with the more talent.
Oh, yeah. And you can also defend him and saying, I wouldn't say half the season, but a good portion of the season, we were missing Corey Davis. Receivers were dropping easy and catchable balls. It wasn't on. Everything wasn't on Zack Wilson. There was a lot of times he was making the right reads. He was staying in the pocket. Even at the size he was last year, he was taking some hits, getting back up, dusting himself off, and going to the next play.
And something that we haven't talked about to this point, because he's been a forgotten name until this moment, There's been a lot of OTA buzz around Denzel Mims. That could be like a huge portion of the Jets. Now, if he doesn't hit, it is what it is. They've lived without him. She'll be what she'll be, and it'll just go down as a draft bust. But if Denzel Mims can live up to the kind of buzz that he's been getting here recently, that could be an extraordinary piece of the Jets offense. I mean, that dude, DK Metcalf, is everything we wanted Denzel Mims to be. So if he could live up to 3/4 of that, I think that's going to be a huge. I mean, just him alone is going to be an astronomical leap for the Jets.
Shit, I'd even take half. I'd take half of the potential he was supposed to be. Because you know why? Even if the Jets were, they can move on from him. Just give us some production so we can get value from you. If we are going to move on from you, because as of right now, you're worth nothing to us, and we're not going to get anything for you. If you go out and you have a semi-decent, year, then we could get something.
Yeah, I really liked him as a rookie. I think he flashed a lot of potential, and I don't know what it was last year. It was a complete 180, but it's very, very difficult to teach 6'3" and 4.3 speed. So I'm not ready to give up on him just yet. I think obviously this is a make or break year for him. If he doesn't play well, then he's going to be gone. But if he even gives you anything, I think you're happy.
I agree wholeheartedly.
I think there was also some reports saying like he had some issues with passion and like wanting to like really play the game. Like he wasn't wholeheartedly into it. But then again, you can look at some of these games where everyone's looking around like, okay, we need a guy to make a play, and why the hell you're not even putting him in? Why is he not even on the field?
Yeah, well, when you're drafted into an Adam Gase regime, I can understand how you would not really want to play the game.
Just stole the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to say the exact same thing.
When you got the fucking coke eyes on your first day at the job.
That I cannot understand.
Over here, like you were taking bath salts before your first interview.
To this day, there's a lot of things that I know I get wrong, but I hemmed and hawed and screamed and pissed and moaned the second he was hired. I never understood it, and I will continue to never understand it.
You're welcome for that, by the way. We're the reason he got hired. He had a fantastic year as Chicago's offensive coordinator. Got like the best season of Jay Cutler's career, and then went to the Jets, and so
yeah. And apparently, he had the league's best offense with Peyton Manning. Yeah, if I was offensive coordinator, I'd have the league's best offense with Peyton Manning. I assure you, because I'm going to sit back and say, hey, Peyton, go do whatever it is that you do and you feel like doing, and that's the offense. That's what he did, guaranteed.
Let's be real. Adam Gase was going up to Peyton Manning, and he was like, all right, we're going to run this play. And Peyton's like, no. Go get me some water. I'll be back after throwing this touchdown. I'm going to run this play.
100%.
Yeah, that Hector, that offensive guru comment, that's pretty much the exact same thing that happened to Chicago with Matt Nagy. And the more I think about it, the more parallels you can draw between Gase and Nagy. And I just think that's hysterical. So I don't know where I was going with that. I just wanted to shit on Matt Nagy.
Gave him the title of like QB guru
right.
after Peyton Manning takes you to the Super Bowl. Like, you're no QB guru. We know Peyton Manning is one of like 3 quarterbacks in the league that doesn't listen to the OC. Like, you don't even need to hire an OC. He's going to run the offense his way anyway.
Yeah.
You specialize in shutting up and sitting down with Peyton Manning as your quarterback. That's your specialty, is shutting up and getting out of the way.
Peyton's got to go coach somewhere here soon. He's got to. He would completely revolutionize the league if he was a offensive coordinator, head coach, whatever he wants to be.
Peyton?
Yeah.
Wasn't he going to be like an owner? Didn't him and
Yeah,
Eli?
yeah. I think there is talks about that, but I don't remember if that really got off the ground or if there was much weight to it. But I think he should be a coordinator somewhere, or, coach somewhere, work his way up to a coordinator, because he, kind of like you said, he's already ran offenses for nearly 20 years. Just let him run somebody else's.
He's too good on TV. They're not going to take him off. He makes too much money doing it anyway.
Oh yeah, him and Eli are just hilarious. But I do 100,000% agree, and I've always said this right up to when he was about to retire. He should be a head coach or an OC or a QB coach, because I guarantee you can give him the shittiest fucking quarterback, and that guy's gonna go out and ball out under Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning could take Mitch Trubisky to the Super Bowl. I'll put money on that.
I don't know if God could take Mitch Trubisky.
Listen,
I'm just a Mitch hater. I'm sorry.
Listen,
Mitch Trubisky's gonna be second quarterback behind Kenny Pickett.
Listen, you're not wrong. I love Mitch, but he's dog shit. He's a terrible quarterback. But I
small hands.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peyton could ride him to the Super Bowl. I think he could do it. I mean, Peyton's about as close to God running an offense as you'd ever get. So,
fair statement.
Something else I wanted to point out was Zack Wilson. We kind of got away from him. I made a video a couple months ago now where I did a series where I was talking about my breakout prediction at each position. And I said Zack Wilson was my quarterback because of pretty much everything we've said. And my biggest issue with him then, and still to this day, obviously, is that he kind of does have that Brett Favre syndrome where he's got all the talent in the world, but he just does not give a fuck. And like Zach said, if that's your biggest issue as a rookie quarterback, good. I would much rather have a quarterback that's willing to let it hang and overestimate himself a little bit when he's young than be super timid and be afraid to throw the ball downfield, be afraid to make the play. So when, we saw that transition midway through the year after he came back from his injury. So if Zack Wilson, they can just kind of knock him down a peg, I do think he can be a superstar in this league. I really do. And obviously when he's a superstar, he won't need to be knocked down a peg because he'll be able to do whatever the fuck he wants. But for now,
I'm just saying, the last Jets quarterback to win a Super Bowl wore mink coats and guaranteed it before the game. I hope he stays up on the highest pedestal in his own mind. I hope he thinks he's the baddest man to walk the face of the earth, because that's what I want in my quarterback. Obviously, I want him to jive with the team. I obviously want, him to listen to his coach. I'm not saying he thinks he's above, the coaching staff, but I want him on every play to say, yeah, I've got you beat. He throws out the interception and says, all right, fuck you, and comes back and throws, and keeps gunslinging. I don't want him ever to be afraid. I want him always to think he's the baddest man to hold the football.
Yeah. Jog over to the sideline after a pick, grab Sauce by the helmet, say, your turn, send him out, get him to pick the ball off, and then just keep the cycle going. If Zack Wilson...
look at the greatest quarterbacks. They all do that. Look at point your finger at any great quarterback, and it's a guy, maybe not that kind of cocky, but it's a guy who's never afraid to sling the ball around.
Yeah.
Even Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Even Mark Sanchez came out in an interview and said, I'd rather have a young quarterback that goes out there and is not afraid to take those risks and just be a gunslinger. And it's easier to pull him back and be like,
exactly,
than to try to tell the guy, go take chances.
Because when you have a guy that won't take chances, you end up 10 years down the line with Kirk Cousins, and then you're stuck. Whereas...
Wind up with Trevor Lawrence.
All right, we're not going to get into the Trevor Lawrence slander. That's for another day.
Here. We'll die on this hill.
All right.
Zach had to bring up Broadway Joe. I'm just still waiting for that inevitable notification ping that he's on life support, because we know what's going to happen after that, just to the Super Bowl.
Just for clarification, for those who don't follow Breaking Down the Tape, we are not hoping Joe dies. That is not where we're going. But we do firmly believe he did sell his soul to win Super Bowl III. So if the devil reclaiming his soul is what it takes, and so be it. And that's where I stand.
I thought Hector was gonna say he was waiting for a press shoot where Zack Wilson's wearing a fur coat, and that's taking you to the Super Bowl. Because if Zack Wilson can become the Mormon Joe Namath, that would be fucking legendary.
A Mormon Joe Namath. Just think about that contradictory statement. That's a jumbo shrimp kind of.
That's the point, yeah. Yeah, we got to get Zack Wilson to grow out his facial hair and maybe change religions.
Grow a beard and get on Broadway and date a new Marilyn Monroe type sexy ass actress and good to go.
Yeah, maybe get his mom off social media too. That might help a little bit. I don't know. Has she been bad recently?
That, but I haven't
his
seen
mom's
it.
gonna keep looking like that. She could stay on social media.
God damn.
Just got the hots.
Saying.
I mean, she is an attractive woman. I'll give you that. But I mean,
I'm telling Christy.
the way she, I don't
got
know,
the
some
ears
of
to
her
the door right
opinions,
now.
I don't think are too great. But anyways, regardless, I do think Zack Wilson could be that fucking guy. Point blank. Period.
People
I'm
think
very
I'm
confident in him.
bugging when I say he's gonna go out and throw 25 TDs. I'm like,
I don't think that's crazy.
he could have went out last year and thrown way more than 11 touchdowns. To only throw 11 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I'll take that because if he goes out and throws another 11 interceptions next year, but from 9 he's not doing another. I don't think at any point in his career ever again he's gonna throw 9 touchdowns.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
God forbid.
Yeah. And I mean, like we've talked about, everything is set up perfectly for Zack Wilson to really take a massive step. The offensive line's upgrade. You've got a great running back room that he can rely on. He's got great receivers he can rely on. The defense looks great. The coaching staff has proven to be at least competent. I mean, Zack Wilson is in, I would say, the best spot out of any of last year's rookies other than Trey Lance to really take that step forward. And I'm not quite as high on Lance as I am Zack Wilson, so I think Zack Wilson will probably look like the best quarterback out of that class next year. So, I don't know. I've got a lot of stock in Zack Wilson, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got more faith in Zack Wilson than Trey Lance. I've stood on. I will die on that horse.
As you should. I think that is a fair.
And I think Zack has to step up on Trey because he has a year's worth of game experience. You can sit and watch the game and you can practice all you want, but when someone's trying to murder you, then it's a little different. And Trey has to go against Aaron Donald twice a year.
Yeah,
that is not conducive to one's mental health.
Yeah, but Trey also has Kyle Juszczyk, so like it balances out. It is what it is.
Oh, he got the fullback.
He's got the fullback. Exactly. He's got fullback Jesus back there. No, yeah, I do think Zack Wilson will definitely be better than Trey Lance. I think long term, honestly. Like I like Trey Lance, but I'm not the highest on him. I think out of like the big four, so to speak, out of that class, Trey Lance is going to end up being the worst, and I know Zach is vehemently disagreeing with me in his head right now, because Trevor Lawrence exists. But
I think it'd be a tie between Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance. I think they would meet in the middle and be like, all right, let's just handshake as co-sucking ass.
Damn, I don't think either one's going to suck, but I think Trevor will probably end up being the best out of this class, and then it'll go Fields Wilson kind of tied in the middle, and then Lance towards the bottom with Mac Jones and the rest underneath of them. Listen, again, we're not here to fight about Trevor Lawrence. That's not the point of this recording. We're not going to get in a big Trevor Lawrence fight because that is going to take over everything. That is another topic for another day. I shouldn't have even brought it up.
I say nothing. I have said nothing. I'm not getting into it.
I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about getting into it with Hector. Because I know Hector will tear me a new one.
On a serious note, though, like I really, out of the 17 games I'm like, I go over the schedule every couple weeks or whatever, and I'm just really trying to, right, which ones are they going to actually win? Which ones are they actually going to lose? And I stand on it. I put a solid like 10 wins. They can easily capture.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I definitely think the floor is 8, successful is 10, and beyond our wildest dreams is 12 plus. That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I guess I'm somewhere in the middle there. I would say I think if I had to try to take the bias hat off for a second, I think 8 wins is where I see this team at. If things go right, I think they can get to that 10-11 mark. It's just it depends on how much it depends on how much breaks right with injuries, because we've seen this team get derailed by injuries every single year, and then it depends on how far of a leap Zach takes. I trust Zach more than I trust the staying healthy, just because we've seen it happen a million times this year. But I just think that 8 number keeps sticking out to me. I think they get to 8 wins, and then in 2023 is when we finally see the playoffs come back.
Yeah, I'm with Matt there.
I
did say early on that the Jets would be like my pick to beat the Bengals, but I would say any other year, before the AFC had the like renaissance they had this offseason, any other year, I would be saying the Jets are a playoff lock. They'd be getting like the 5 or 6 seed, and I think they'd win a playoff game or two. But with how stacked the AFC is right now, and the Jets are still a young team that hasn't really, had the time to develop, had the time to put everything together, I do think it'll probably end right around 500. But next year, 2023, when everything's finally put together, if Zack Wilson does take that step, you get another offseason, you can go out and get even more talent. I think the Jets can be a contending football team in 2023. Absolutely. I don't think that's out of the question at all.
Yeah, the rest of the AFC does put a little bit of a damper on my extreme bias and hopes and dreams, but anything can happen, man.
Yeah.
Anything can happen any given Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've seen crazy. I mean, when the Bengals, I'm not gonna lie, when the Bengals picked Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell, I was like, you guys are idiots. You're never gonna go anywhere. That sucks for you. And then apparently I'm a moron who doesn't know football. So anything can happen. I mean, I've seen dumber. I watched the butt fumble from 13 rows in from the end zone. I've seen stupid things happen in football. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say them making the playoffs is completely out of the question or anything. Like I said, I definitely think the potential is there. I just think this is like the worst possible time for the Jets to get really good, or the Jets to like have high expectations just because of everything else going on. But if they can stay healthy, if Zack Wilson can take, kind of like Matt said early on, a Josh Allen type leap, hell yeah. Jets to the playoffs, Jets to the fucking moon.
I mean, just
you almost said Super Bowl real quick.
I almost did. I had to catch myself.
I mean, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Worst comes says that Zack Wilson doesn't play great this year again. Just move on from him.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You know why? Because the rest of the team is extremely young. So you get rid of him, you bring in another QB, and it's not even considered a rebuild. Yeah. All you did is, you got guys now that got NFL experience, a year or two, here or there with the guys that they got. Bring in a new rookie quarterback. Try again.
Yeah.
I will say that the Jets are in an extreme and unique circumstance because this is only year 2 for Wilson. But I do think if like catastrophic failure happens, not staying level, but if like we see regression happen, I do think Zach is out of New York. We've got a talented quarterback class coming up. He's got all the talent around him. If he stays level, I think he's fine. But if he does regress, and especially if he extremely regresses, I do think there's going to be quite the shakeup because of the talented quarterback class that we have coming. But I see an act of God happening before I see him regressing in a sort of significant manner. But a crazy couple of years, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, the Jets are an exciting football team. That's for sure.
For once. Yeah. Even in just the AFC East, it could be easily 3 wins right there for the Jets. Because I see them splitting every series with the teams in the AFC East. I see each team winning 1 game of the 2 that they play against each other.
Yeah, I can see
I don't think that's extreme. I don't think it's extreme to say that they have the Bills.
I think they still steal 1 from the Bills, and they in the 2 games that they play against Miami and the Patriots, and at least one of them, they're beating the fucking brakes off of each one of those teams.
I don't know if I'll ever see the Jets beat the brakes off the Patriots, but your lips to God's ears, man. I hope. I hope.
I mean, who knows? Maybe get Zach to really channel his inner Broadway Joe and get like the extreme swagger and intensity and really just fuck up the Patriots to fuck up the Patriots.
That would be beautiful.
Or Bill Belichick just goes out and does nothing but run the ball on us and makes us look like complete fools.
Which is also highly possible.
I would give anything right now with the way the Jets are building to be in the NFC East. I've never thought that I've wanted to be in the NFC East more than this year. Because the Jets would be far and away favorites for that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not far and away. I feel like Eagles are pretty good competitors. I think they're pretty sneaky. But I think if the Jets swap place with the Giants, I think that we would be front runners.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like hypotheticals and shit, but if you throw the Jets in the NFC, they have a chance to come out. If Zack Wilson can be that guy, they could come out of the NFC.
I just wish the Giants got it easy. They don't even know how easy they got it.
They got it easy, but they still fuck it up.
I'm saying. I mean, the Jets are the Jets and would probably do the same thing if we're talking about what ifs, but still, the point being that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we can be real with it too. Even if we make the playoffs this year, probably gonna get our asses handed to us.
But you still made it.
Yeah, we still. But that's what I'm saying. We still made it. But I'm just saying the other AFC teams, they're on another level right now. Like I said, I just want to get there. But like you guys, like you just mentioned, you put us over in the NFC side. All we got to do is really worry about what the Rams
and the Bucks
and the Bucks.
The Bucks,
and I guess you have to throw the Packers in because they're the Packers, but
Bucks, I'm not even that about. Like, I'm not. Tom Brady don't got his security blanket no more. He's still missing Godwin for more than half the season. I don't know. Like, the Bucks are not going to be what the Bucks were the last 2 seasons.
It's still Tom fucking Brady. Like, you guys should know that better than anybody.
Thanks, bud.
Listen, I had to. I'm sorry, I had to. You can't slander the GOAT and not expect to get it back when you're a Jets fan.
Fuck that. Tom Brady's going to have the worst season of his career.
And now the Jets are going 0-17.
Now that it doesn't matter for the Jets, yeah. Jesus, he couldn't do that like 3 years ago.
I mean, he got hurt. What else do you want from him? He tried to give you a year.
You know what? At this point, I just wish Drew Bledsoe never got hurt.
That's
really where I'm at in my life. Is I wish the New York Stock Exchange never broke Drew Bledsoe.
Let's be real. If it wasn't for his name being Tom Brady, and he cheated twice, he would have been out the NFL. No, his name's not Josh Gordon. His name's not Kareem Hunt or Ray Rice. It's a white man named Tom Brady. So they're like, oh, you cheated. Cool.
The Patriots have a whole history of getting away with that stuff, though. Everyone cheats. They just get caught doing it.
And they get away. Listen, you can't get mad at them for getting away with it. It's not their fault the NFL's inept.
Because they're in my division. I can easily get mad at them. Doesn't mean it's rational.
Fair. Okay, fair. Yeah, like you said, everybody cheats. They're just the ones getting caught doing it, and they're not doing shit to them. So why would they stop?
True that.
It's just smart team management at that point. Smart game management. Well, are there any players we didn't hit on that you guys want to talk about? Shout out, just throw their name into the existence. So when they do well this year, you sound smart.
You said before, you brought up Ashton Davis before. That is a guy that I did like when they draft, and I still like now, even with their depth. I don't think he's going to be like a huge game changer. No, but I do expect a couple of plays out of him.
Yeah, especially if they do what I said, like move some of their safeties up into the box. He's going to be a guy they're going to have to rely on in those type of situations. And, he's got the athleticism. I think he's a smart football player. He can absolutely make some plays here or there.
We've seen him also be utilized as Barrios' backup in the punt return and kick return game. So he's being used in multiple, phases of the game.
Makes sense.
Yeah, just something about those white boys in New York.
I'm just saying, Braden Mann got snubbed for punter of the year last year.
Punters matter too.
Punters' lives matter.
Fullbacks on top, though, unfortunately. Punters are cool and all, but fullbacks still exist, so.
There's multiple punters in the league. There's only one fullback.
That's not true. Listen, don't get me started. We will be here for another 45 minutes. Do not do that to me.
I took up 2.5 hours on yours. We're taking up 2.5 hours on yours, damn it.
Now, I was, speaking of fullbacks, I've been on a tear with blowing people's minds with the amount of fullbacks I can name. So there are more than two. There are more than one. There's more than one valued fullback in the NFL. There are multiple. It's just some of them only play special teams. And those guys are beloved by their fan bases. Yeah, and I mean, most fullbacks are converted linebackers anyway, so it works out. The guy from Detroit, his name's completely escaping me right now. He's Penn State's all-time leading tackler as a linebacker. And then they converted him to fullback. He checks on offense twice a game and is just a special teams ace. And Derek Watt's kind of in that same realm where he's a big special teams guy. But they still matter. Special teams matters and fullbacks matter, okay? Especially when fullbacks are playing special teams.
Take it.
I will take my wins where I can, damn it. Well, if nobody has anything else to add and we're not going to say anything else to try to get me riled up about fullbacks, I think that about wraps it up here. Thank you guys so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. It was a great time. If you guys want to plug anything, I'll let you guys do that here.
Yeah, I mean, first, thanks for having us, man. You know, it was a pleasure to have you on Breaking Down the Tape, and it's a pleasure to be here. Matt, I am a big fan on TikTok. I believe you have a podcast, and when you shout it out, I'm going to have to go immediately follow. But yeah, so Breaking Down the Tape, wherever you can find it, all your major social medias, all your major podcasting platforms, YouTube, all the good stuff. It's really simple. You just search Breaking Down the Tape. I Googled it from work the other day, and we show up. So we're legit. It's a thing. We're on the first page of Google, and I didn't even pay for it. So sucks to suck. Just go listen. It's there.
Hey, and just so the guys out there know, all your followers and listeners can get the 411 on this. We will have David on our lives when we do our Monday or Thursday lives on our show. We already spoke with David about bringing him on for a couple games and doing some live reactions and talking to some of the people commenting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's me. I am Matt O'Leary NY on TikTok and anywhere you get social media. And you can follow my podcast, Just Jets, wherever it is you get your podcast. New episodes usually every Monday. No episode this week, but coming back strong and ready for the NFL season, baby. Let's go.
And
happy 4th to all you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't actually know what day this is going up, but we're recording it the day after the 4th of July. So happy, probably like 2-week belated 4th of July. It is what it is, though. I'll make sure to put everybody's links in the description. So if you're lazy and don't feel like doing it yourself, there will be links down below. But that's kind of like I said earlier, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Really appreciate you guys coming on once again. If you're watching this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. How do you guys think the Jets are going to do this offseason or this season? Good Lord. Let us know in the comments below. We'll get some conversations going and whatnot. And everyone have a great day, night, whatever the hell time of day it is for you. I hope you're enjoying it.